amazing. So, yeah, it's a good morning so far.
Kind of looks like you in the shower, man. Just your apple butter dial soap that you use.
Yeah.
You go through about a bottle every 2 days, so it looks good right there, man.
I would appreciate you not throwing my hygiene routines out.
Look, man, it's good. You're featured in a magazine. Not saying which one, but it's all good to go, man.
I know. You're the one that told me to do that.
That's right, man. That's right. What a night, huh?
Oh, yes. Last night was a lot of fun. We went to the Professional Fighters League, the PFL. It was on ESPN. It was at Municipal Auditorium. They had a great crowd. I wasn't sure what to expect. It was a lot of fun. Ricky and I ended up staying till the very end. It was a late night. Didn't get home till like 1. The main event ended after midnight, but it was really, really cool. We had both fighters in. We've talked to them twice now. And Thad Jean remains undefeated. He was victorious in a split decision. It was a good fight. Being honest, I thought that it might have I don't know if I completely agreed with the scoring.
Oh,
but
controversy here.
But he ends up winning by split decision.
Controversy. It was I'd never been to an MMA fight, so pure savagery. I mean, just the whole thing. I mean, that's just, and the crowd was crazy. The place was packed there last night. The best part of the night, folks, was Chase is sitting to my right, and I'm talking to him. I look over to Chase's right, and none other than the actor, comedian, born-again Christian, Russell Brand is sitting to your right. I'm like,
yep.
Huh?
Yep.
What?
He sure was.
And then there he was. And so he was there. Will Levis was there. A bunch of Titans were there.
J.C. Latham.
Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard was there.
So it was a fun, I'm telling you, it was a fun night. If it comes back again, go see it because everybody was into it. I mean, everybody was into it.
The fights were fun. I mean, there were a few that were kind of boring, but then there were some that, there was a knockout. Did you leave? I can't remember if you left. There was one that there was a knockout.
That was the fight we left. They knocked him out in the first round.
Yeah. So
pounded, boom, done.
That was fun. But you mentioned Will Levis being there, and we're obviously going to get into the Titans. John McClain going to join us a little later on, and also Coach Jeff Fisher is going to be here today with us. He's actually coming here as the Cats have a big game in Clarksville this weekend. But I will give a lot of credit to Will Levis because they announced the Titans that were there. This was after you left,
right?
Latham, big cheer. Pollard, big cheer. Levis, it was mixed. And you know what? He took it like a champ. Anybody that walked up to him and asked for a picture, he did it. Anyone that walked up to him and shook his hand, he did it.
So did we. Right?
Well, we did. But my point is, he could have shut down. He could not go out, not be in public. He was there with I think it was his mom and his sister. And he's just taking this in stride. So, I respect that. I think we all know
what's he supposed to do. Stay in his house.
He could, and he could just be a jerk. I mean, you can't sit here and tell me you've never met an athlete that wasn't a jerk.
Oh, 80% of them are.
So, I mean, I think he was really. It just shows that he gets it. He understands it. He's embraced it. And look, there were a lot of people that were excited to see Will Levis.
There were.
I mean,
he was very gracious.
It was cool.
The most awkward part of that was somebody walked up, got a picture, and said, "Hey, you think you're gonna beat out Cam Ward?" He's like, "We'll see."
And he looked at you and said, "Man, I don't know. You talk about it on the radio."
He's like, "I had no clue who I am," which is fine. I mean, but yeah, it was a good time last night. Everybody had fun, and my goodness, man, what a night! What a night to see all that things together. I've never been to one. Now you have. And Jonathan Coachman was there for wrestling fans and MMA. Like Ricky and I actually talked to him after the show. It was very nice. I can only imagine what it's like to do that in Madison Square Garden with 19,000, 20,000 people going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and some of those guys had fought in the UFC. What?
I'll tell you in the break. That's something else.
Okay. Jay from Laverne on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com, says, try the fried goat cheese chicken biscuit. It's amazing.
I like your farmer there, buddy. That's good.
Yeah.
Apple butter. Apple butter reminds me so much of my mom.
Apple butter's good on anything.
Is that the apple butter jeans with the flow?
Oh, my God.
She hit the flow. Won't nothing mo.
Thank you.
Stick to hosting, Joe.
Dr. Crane coming off the
Right.
top rope. I like
Left
it.
field. Love it.
I like it. Okay, Joe, go ahead.
Dr. Crane, hit it.
It is. How many days?
Oh, I thought we were going to hear it.
I think he had it faded down.
Okay. That's the final countdown. 71 days. 71 days to the start of college football. So that means we're taking number 71 today in sports. Who is your favorite player, athlete to wear number 71 throughout everything? Chase McCabe, there's a Nashville Predator that wore number 71.
And his name is J.P. Dumont.
Who had the loudest I've ever heard Bridgestone Arena was J.P. Dumont hit a shorthanded goal in the playoffs versus San Jose in 2007. Bridgestone Arena went insane.
Yep.
And I'll never forget how loud it is. So there, we started home. Dr. Crane, go ahead and get it out. Your favorite number 71.
Michael Roos. Third time's a charm.
Rooster. 71. When Jeff Fisher's here later, we'll ask him about Rooster.
Yes, absolutely we will. 71.
Ask him about rooster comb injections, too. I wonder if those linemen did that.
Okay. Well, he was quiet, but he was a hell of an offensive lineman.
He was good. Would play from 05 to 14. And
yeah, because his rookie year, didn't he play right tackle because Brad was still at left?
And then spent 1 year with Taylor Lewan. Yeah. That's right.
He sure did. That's right.
So number 71, I got my favorite 71 of all time. I'm going back in time. It is Mongo from Blazing Saddles, Alex Karras, number 71 for the Detroit Lions. Absolute beast. What a player in the Hall of Fame. Just an amazing. I mean, that generation, those guys were just crazy. I mean, they got the crap beat out of them, beat the crap out of other people. But there's also a number 71 that gave the Tennessee Titans quite a fit through many years, Jason.
Ogden?
Tony Baselli from the Jacksonville Jaguars was also number 71.
There was another number 71 for the Titans that was quite a fan favorite. He was known as The Undertaker, Dennis Kelly.
Dennis Kelly was 71. Yeah, I forgot about him.
One of John Robinson's best trades.
That's right.
Dorial Green Beckham
God.
For Dennis Kelly.
Yep. Really good. Yeah. So that was a 71. Charles Mann played for the Redskins on those Super Bowl teams. A great defensive end. Another fantastic number 71. So we're 71 days out from the start of college football, and we cannot wait.
Yes. We are certainly excited about that. So if you think of some 71s throughout the show, you can drop those on our text line at 615-737-1025. Of course, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Mini camp in the books. That's why we saw a lot of the Titans last night, because they are now free to go on vacations, take a little break. I know that, reading what people have had to say that, you're going to have some people that are like, oh, Cam Ward, oh, man, he looks so good. And you can't judge all that by shorts and T-shirt. We know that. We'll hear what Brian Callahan said about him a little bit later, but I think as long as you're on schedule, as long as he is on schedule, then that's all I care about. But whatever that schedule is, they know that. But that's really all I care about at this point.
What do you need? I mean, I get it, but what do you want to see? What do you want when he comes back?
I want to see that, he has not regressed, that he's been in the playbook, he's been studying. I do think it's important for him, especially. I think you asked it the other day that, he's kind of been nonstop for really the past year and a half. So to actually get a break, to break away from the playbook and break away from football for a little bit, I think would not be a terrible thing. But, I want to see him come to camp, be ready to work.
That's the goal. That's the mission, to do that. It's just come back and get ready. I've seen, my thing is, and I hate to be sort of a Debbie Downer about that, but I've seen this all before. It's like, come back in and then just like, okay. We were this with the Levis last year. Like, this is the guy. I mean, this is his chance. And then, you know, he
We were.
flips the ball to the Bears and lose the game. Then he rolls the ball to the Jets the next week. And so I temper my expectations till I see that Broncos game in September. When is this it? And that game is not going to be the tell-all of like, all right, is this working or not? But, I mean, God, can you imagine go to Denver and win and then come home at 1-0 with the home crowd? I mean, that's what we want to see last year. They would have beaten the Bears had he not flipped the ball out.
Oh, I know.
Then you come back, you got Aaron Rodgers in them. And I'm telling you, in that game last year, Aaron Rodgers in the first, that was checked out.
Oh, yeah.
The Jets were done. And then Levis decides to roll the ball to, was it Spears?
Yep.
And they gave the Jets life, and they get that. So, I don't know. I like everything we've seen about Campbell. We go back to when he was doing the camp with Shedeur Sanders. He's like, hey, let's do a dance together for TikTok. And Cam's like, man, I'm here to play football. I'm not here to dance. I was like, yeah, attaboy.
And that should have been the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought it was interesting what Teron Davenport said this morning on Robbie and Rex Road, because Rex Road kind of asked, like, you know, and it obviously was a little different because Levis wasn't a rookie. He was going into his second year, but first full season. You know, what's the difference you've seen with Cam Moore now as opposed to Levis back this time last year? And Teron was like, look, with all due respect, Cam Moore is just a better quarterback. I mean, that's just what he's seen to this point. That's, again, you know, no slight at Levis. It just is what it is. And if that's truly the case, like if we determine, you know, a few weeks into training camp, like, hey, Cam Ward really is just that guy, and like he's that much better than Will Levis, I know the Titans fans need to temper expectations, but I wouldn't blame them for getting excited about potentially having their guy.
No, not at all. If he's the guy, if he's the one, build around him and go and see what you can do. But camp's going to be so interesting this year.
615-737-1025. We're up and running here on this Friday. We are live at Maple Street Biscuit Company. Wake up to wow, just here off 8th Avenue in the Wedgwood, Houston area. I mean, they have bold bowls. They have signature chicken biscuits. I got the Farmer, which is bacon, apple butter, and cheddar. It is very good. Joe got the regular old chicken biscuit. They have a lot of different things to choose from. They also have a big lunch menu as well. So come by and see us. We have Sounds tickets that you can enter to win. Jeff Fisher is going to be on site with us, and we're actually going to have some Cats tickets in the 10 o'clock hour to give away for the game tomorrow in Clarksville. So big show. We'll have much more coming. John McClain at the bottom of the hour. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
referred to missed sacks. I'm wondering, were your missed sacks, can you put into context your missed sacks last year as compared to the league? Like, how far off is that number from what an average team would miss?
I don't have that one off the top of my head. I can maybe find that. It's more about just the finishing of the sacks. You know, we had them wrapped up. It slips out. We don't come to balance. We don't do a good enough job technically to get themselves in position to bring a quarterback down. And we missed, probably I think somewhere in the range of 20 plus. When you're just looking at chances we had to get the quarterback on the ground that we didn't get. And obviously you convert those missed sacks into sacks, you're in a much better place than we ended up at the end of the year. So that's been a big point of emphasis for us. And a lot of that has to do with the balancing of the rush too, and making sure that we don't give quarterbacks lanes. So if we do miss one by somebody, the next part there is to clean up that next part of it. So I'm really pleased with the way that defensive line's worked over the course of this offseason. I'm happy with our improvements we've made. And hopefully that number goes way down for us.
I feel like that's disproportionate to what goes on with the average defense.
That's hard to say. I'd have to go look and dig into that one to say with confidence. I just know there was too many opportunities that we missed.
That was Brian Callahan yesterday talking to the media about the offensive line, chasing Big Joe live at Maple Street Biscuit Company here in Wedgwood, Houston. And I found that conversation interesting. We saw a couple of the offensive linemen last night that were including J.C. Latham, who I will admit, that's the first time that I have seen him in person because, the practice has been happening during our show.
Right.
He does look lean. I mean, you can definitely tell he has slimmed down.
Yeah, and he's back in his natural position after they spent last year lying to us that he was going to be a left tackle. J.C. Latham admitted halfway through the season he was
A little overwhelmed.
Yeah, a little parched a little bit. So now you're back at right tackle. And look, the pressure is still intense if you're an offensive lineman, but you're not on that island on the left tackle with every eyeball on you. I mean, so when you've never played that left tackle, and he played 1 year at Alabama, spent the rest part at right tackle, but then they lied to us and said that the greatest offensive line coach of all time can make him a good left tackle. He is not. I think Bill Callahan's overrated in his expertise that we all give to him. But now J.C. Latham's back where he belongs on the right side. If Zeitler can be good at guard, Cushenberry could live up to his standards. Remember, he was one of the worst signings they said last year in free agency. Skoronsky can get a little bit better. And the Dan Moore Jr. Then you got something. You got something working there, which is great, which is far better than you've seen the last 3 years.
All right. So two things I want to ask you when it comes to the O-line. Number one, you mentioned the right tackle. The blind side is the left side, for a right-handed quarterback. And this could be a dumb question. So if it is, tell me. Has that changed a little bit that quarterbacks have gotten more mobile and they'll move around in the pocket a little bit more?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That puts an emphasis on the right side, maybe more than it did way back when.
Look at Cam Ward at Miami. Look at Cam Ward at Washington State. He likes him. He sensed prep. All the quarterbacks, Montana, Marino, Elway, will tell you, once you realize you can sense pressure, your game gets elevated. Now, you've got to make the throw and be timing and everything like that. But watch Cam Ward at Miami. I mean, that pocket broke down so much. He's able to get out of there and throw the ball with accuracy and everything. So, yeah, but it's still vital. I mean, that's why you try to get that right defensive. And now teams are moving guys around back and forth because if you can get off the edge on the right side, better than the left side, go to the right side. But, yeah, that's a good question.
The second question is, you mentioned Lloyd Cushenberry, who's still out with injury. So Corey Levin has taken the majority of snaps with the one at the center position. To me, that can't give us the full picture of what this remade offensive line can be until Cushenberry is back.
So what's his timetable?
I think training camp is what I've heard.
All right. It'll take a little bit to get in there, but, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go – I mean, Levin's been up and been down for quite a while. He's not the greatest of a player to snap the ball. I mean, because you go from Ben Jones to that. But I just think that, yeah, I mean, that's why the joint practices are going to be so important for the Titans, whether with the Falcons or the Saints or whomever they're going against. And you get that continuity. I mean, look, when they do those drills, when you're doing they got to be live. That's got to be live. You just can't. We talk all the time about, mental reps. I'm telling you, mental reps are garbage, absolute garbage. I could sit and do a mental rep all day long, but until you're out there on the field blocking and timing and setting the bingo blocks, combo blocks with the guy next to you and to the left, you're not getting it. So we can talk about mental reps all day long. That's just a lazy way of saying things like, mental reps. No, man, I got to see on the field.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think that, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, mental reps are just, I think that's coach speak.
Yeah, I got some mental reps. Isn't that film study? I mean, film study is mental reps, right?
That's all important. But getting out on the football field, doing the actual assignment, running the actual plays, going up against an actual defense, whether it's yours or somebody else's, you can't replicate that.
You can't.
And really,
it's those things in life too.
You can do stuff in practice, but really, these guys aren't going to truly learn until they do it in a game.
Look, you get in the game, and then take Zeitler, right guard. Yeah. So say the Texans do some sort of stunt, right? So his guy goes right, and Latham's guy goes to the left. I mean, you've got to be able to figure that stuff out, pick up blocks. I mean, you only get that by repetition on the field. You can show it all day long in the classroom, but if you're on the field, you got to figure it out. I missed so many blocks because the communication was off and things like that. And then the defense realizes that, all right, they're not picking this stunt up, and if you can see what's going on and make it create a little confusion inside, it goes. But the more those five are together on the field, the better this football team will be.
I will say, you keep bringing up Kevin Zeitler, and I agree with you because they signed him to come in and be that guard on the right side. He's a veteran. I love that move. It's a one-year deal. But I am going to be watching Jackson Slater.
Yeah, I like him.
That they drafted out of Sacramento State. Because I think the idea there is he's going to be what's next. The other part of that is you brought up Bill Callahan maybe being a little overrated earlier, and, perhaps last year he was. But I will give you that what he did with who's the guy he ended up leaving?
Andre Dillard.
No, the guard. I just had his name and I just had a blank. The guard the second round guard, North Dakota State, Dylan Radins.
Yeah,
what he did with Radins, even though Radins still isn't great, he turned him into absolutely nothing into a serviceable offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So I want to see what he can do with a young guy like Slater.
Right.
And not as much the veterans.
So I have a list here of our number of the day is number 71. I've got a list today of the current best players wearing jerseys from 0 to 99. Today's 71. Look who number 71 is today.
Zeitler.
Yep.
Kevin Zeitler. That is interesting.
Is that a one-year deal he's here on?
It's a one-year deal.
Okay.
Yeah. But because I think they hoped they were going to draft somebody behind him.
Yeah. I like Slater, Sacramento State.
Yeah.
Guy's just nasty. I mean, you need offensive linemen who are absolutely nasty.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. They're supposed to be nasty.
Their car needs to be nasty. Their bedroom needs to be nasty. Their desk needs. I want nasty guys. It's a nasty position.
Would you say nasty boys, like Janet Jackson?
No. When I see nasty, I think of Rob Dibble.
Oh,
to me, that's the Nasty Boys.
That's what I mean, because they used to play Nasty Boys when they would come out. That was their entrance theme.
And then Dibble, Charlton, and
who's the other? Ricky would know. Texas Ricky.
Yeah, or Ombudsman. Yeah,
coming up next, John McClain couldn't join us on Wednesday because he was doing something really cool with Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson. He'll tell us about that. He will join the show coming up next. We're live at Maple Street Biscuit Company here on Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3, the game on this Friday. We are live at Maple Street Biscuit Company. Wake up to wow. You can come see us at 2407 8th Avenue South in Nashville. Get free crispy tots with the purchase of any of their delicious biscuit sandwiches. So definitely come by and see us. We got Sounds tickets. We're going to give away some Cats tickets as well. And, of course, Maple Street Biscuit Company is proud sponsor of John McClain, who joins us now on our phone line. John, I got to tell you, he sent us pictures, shared them with Joe. We're both very, very jealous of what you got to do on Wednesday, and that is hang out with the Hall of Famer Jimmy Johnson.
Yep. When Jimmy was senior in high school in Port Arthur, Jefferson, Port Arthur's kind of between Houston and Beaumont, and his team made the state semifinals, and they lost to Corpus Christi Miller, 1960. Miller was the first integrated team to win a state championship in Texas, and the coach told us when we interviewed him in Lubbock, he's 97 years old, that in their 13-1 season, the best player they went against and the hardest for them to go against was Jimmy Johnson, the linebacker guard from Port Arthur. So we called Jimmy, and he said, come on over, and I drove over with the director, flew back. He's got a place called Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill on Key Largo. It's a sports bar, restaurant on the water, and it's got his memorabilia. So we got there the day before, checked it out. We were set up when Jimmy got there. He regaled us with stories about growing up in Texas, coaching almost every stop along the way. Then I interviewed him about the times back then when you had the all-black Prairie Interscholastic League and all-white University Interscholastic League. In Corpus Christi, Miller was one of the few schools in Texas that complied with the Supreme Court ruling to outlaw segregation. He was great talking. He got a promo for us. And he said, guys, when it comes out, let me know. I help you promote it. And I'll call all my friends and get them to promote it. And he said, I got a lot of friends.
Yes, he does. That is for sure. You know, I obviously don't remember his time in college football. I grew up a Cowboys fan before the Titans got here, and he obviously was the coach of those teams. At the time, John, when he made the jump from college to the NFL, how was that viewed? Was that viewed as a more of a risky move than maybe it would be now?
It was a risky move. Jerry Jones hired Jimmy because they went back to the University of Arkansas where they were teammates, and they were friends at that point. And Jimmy, of course, had won a national championship in Miami, won the Big 8 championship in Oklahoma State, and he was ready to make the move to the NFL. And I remember a lot of people, myself included, thought that he should have hired a bunch of NFL coaches instead of bringing his coaches. But as it turned out, every move Jimmy made was right. And we talked to him about the Herschel Walker trade. And one of the things that when he made that trade for a lot of veteran players, he added that if he got rid of those veteran players, he could get corresponding draft picks, including number ones and number twos. And the idea all along was to cut him. So for whatever reason, the Vikings didn't want that in the original trade announcement, so they just thought he got a bunch of veterans. But at that time, the Cowboys were terrible. Tom Landry had left the cupboard bare, and that first season, they won one game, and people think Troy Aikman won it, but it wasn't. It was Steve Walsh, who had come in the supplemental draft, and in one of his greatest trades that didn't get a lot of attention, he traded Steve Walsh to the Saints for first, second, and third round draft choices. Turned out to be a terrible trade. And another great trade that Jimmy Johnson made while he had all the control of the Cowboys. And it started coming apart with Jerry when Jerry saw how much fun Jimmy was having making all the personnel decisions, and it was in his contract, but then Jerry wanted to get involved in personnel, and after they won that second Super Bowl, Jimmy just couldn't take it anymore, and he walked away, and after he coached the Dolphins and retired, so many owners tried to hire him, if not as coach GM, as a GM, the Texans being one of them, and he just didn't want to coach anymore. And he's got a great setup there in which he's got a house and boats. He said his whole life there, since he moved there, he's had 21 different boats. In other words, Jimmy likes to be on the water.
Oh, yeah. We're talking to John McClain, spent some time with Jimmy Johnson. John, in your talk with Jimmy, how much did you talk about his college? Because, you know, remember, he went from Oklahoma State to Miami in 84. He came late. He had to keep Schnellenberger's staff there. It wasn't the greatest time. But then 85 through 88, he turned it around. How much time did you guys spend on his time at Miami and the decision at the time, John? Because he was not the most popular coach at Oklahoma State to take that job and go to Miami where they just won a national championship.
We talked to him about colleges. That wasn't part of our interview. So we talked to him. And one of the things about Jimmy retiring from Fox, he doesn't have to be careful what he says anymore. And he's a smart guy. He's not going to say anything foolish. And you know, like so many, almost every program in the country is cheated like crazy. That's me saying that, not him. But obviously they did because they got caught at it. And then he had some of the greatest athletes ever. And he said one of the things that he did at Miami, because of the heat and the humidity, he had to have guys that could run. And so they were smaller. He didn't care about 300-pound linemen. He wanted guys who could run and guys that could stay on the field. And they always won with talent and speed, not with force. And Jimmy, I told him, I sat next to him in Port Arthur at a Wade Phillips roast about 5 years ago. And we were on the head dais, and I told him why he was going to get in the Hall of Fame. And he told me why he was not. And when I saw him get surprised in the Hall of Fame, and then as soon as I walked in, he came up and as soon as he walked in, Key Largo, first thing he did was bring up what I had told him, and I knew he would get in. Even though his career was short, Jimmy Johnson had control of everything, every step of the way. He made sure to get him, and he said so many people, basketball GMs, other sports owners come and meet with him, and he tries to meet with them whenever they come. Some come loaded with pages of questions. And one time a guy asked him, I can't remember who it was, said, do you think it's okay to hire a college coach? Well, you're asking a college coach, so of course he's going to say it. But one of the things he said was, I want a coach who's passionate about his job, loves the job, and will work 24/7 at that job. And he can learn more while he's on the job and from people around him. But it's got to start off. He's got to know talent, work 24/7, and he's got to just love it. Because if he doesn't, he's going to have issues. And that's the way he was.
Yeah, John, if he doesn't step down after the 93 season, do you think there's a good chance Cowboys win 4 Super Bowls? Because there's not a doubt in my mind they beat the Niners in the 94 championship. And, of course, they won in 95 when Barry Switzer. You know, we've never had a 3-time in a row Super Bowl champion. I think they win 4 straight.
Well, free agency started, and they were going to lose players. And they did lose players because players had gotten their rings. They wanted to get paid. It was a new time, and they were having players bail right and left for more money. Now, he could have won the one that Switzer won because Barry won it with his players and his coaches. And so I'm not sure about the 4th one, but as long as he had Aikman and Smith in Irvin, they were capable of beating anybody, anywhere. So maybe they could have won 4 in a row.
John McClain is with us. We will have more with him coming up next. Of course, he is presented by Maple Street Biscuit Company, which is where we are today. Wake up to wow. More with John coming up next. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Live at Maple Street Biscuit Company. Wake up to wow. Scratch biscuits, handcrafted breakfast, and bold flavors. Sign up for your chance to win tickets to an upcoming Nashville Sounds game by coming up and seeing us. Also, as we continue with John McClain, Coach Jeff Fisher is going to join us. He's on the way here now, John. So he said to tell you hello, but it'll be good to catch up with Coach Fish coming up in a few minutes. Speaking of, I've heard him
one of my
say it.
all-time favorite coaches. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I could tell you a million stories about Jeff. I hope he's doing really well with the Arena League and give him my best. I never had more fun covering an NFL team, whether it was the Oilers or the Texans, than I did when Jeff was the coach. And I'll always appreciate all the charity events he did for the Charles Davis Foundation with me. He went above and beyond for those events. And so many billions, is that the word, would come out?
Yes.
And I know
Yep.
they came out to see him. And he was always very gracious with his time. And Jeff would tell his assistant coaches, you're coming to the new ones. The guys like Dave McGinnis knew it, and so did players like Steve McNair and Eddie George. But he would have new coaches, and he'd say, I need you to come to this charity. And they're like, why is a guy from Houston doing this charity here? And Jeff would tell, well, it's a long story. I had so much fun doing that and always appreciated his contributions.
It's interesting to me too that he's a guy that still stands the test of time. Like, people that remember when the Oilers and then Titans got here, he was obviously the coach, was the coach for, I think, 16 seasons. And, you know, he's still just as beloved now as he was back then. And you just don't see that as much anymore.
Well, one reason is Jeff was very personable. He was good with the media. He was good with the fans. And I think the media always liked him and respected him. Anytime you treat people, if you respect them, they're going to respect you. And I also think the media there was appreciative of getting a team, of course. But, and I think that the fact when they struggled early on, they understood what he was going through was unprecedented in NFL history. And then he had to do it again. And I'll tell you one thing. If Jeff Fisher had coached one more year, he had Jared Goff as a rookie. And like most rookie quarterbacks, he struggled. But then all of a sudden, Jeff's out, and they get Cooper Kupp, and they start bringing in all these other players, draft picks, free agents, and Goff just, you know, his career took off. If Jeff had still been the head coach there, he would have done a great job. And he just didn't have the same weapons in that last season as Sean McVay did.
John McClain is with us. I've heard Jeff say this, but I also remember in working with Floyd, when minicamp would wrap up, there was one time Floyd said, I hated this time of year. And I was like, why? And he goes, because it's 6 weeks of you don't know what phone call you're going to get at 3 a.m. because something happens. You got to hope that nothing goes down, but it seems like every GM, every coach in the NFL probably feels that way.
Players are more mature and responsible today than they were then because they got a chance to make so much money. Now, I'll tell you, dumbass Jimmy Ward, the safety for the Texans, who came from the 49ers, and D'Amico Ryans loves him, just got a domestic arrest and charges at 5:30 a.m. yesterday morning, and he's competing for his job, and then he gets involved in something like that. And I'll guarantee you, when D'Amico Ryans was probably already up, but that's the kind of call, and you'd like to think it's not going to come from a veteran who's a team leader. And so anyway, that was something you worried about, but you just don't see it as much as you used to because players tend to stay in better shape and they don't go crazy during that time off like they used to.
Talking to John McClain on the Chase and Big Joe show. John, this Bengals impasse with Shamar Stewart that's going on, I don't – everything is transparent now. Why are the Bengals trying to lie to this guy when everybody can see what's going on? And it's caused this big thing where this guy could go back into the draft next year. How do you see this thing working out and ending?
I think it'll get worked out. You know, they're trying to put a clause in his contract that if he gets cut, he doesn't get paid. Well, why would you consider a clause about your first-round pick being cut 3 years from now? And they didn't do it with last year's number one, Amari Sims. So I don't blame Stewart. He should put a lid on it. He shouldn't be critical of the team. That's stupid. people care a lot more about Trey Hendrickson than they do Stewart, who didn't do squat at Texas A&M, but looked like Tarzan at the combine and pro day and everything. They took a big chance on him because of the way he looked in shorts and T-shirt, like Anthony Richardson and some others through the decades. But I think they'll get it worked out. There are 20 unsigned second-round picks. That's
Wow.
unprecedented, and it's all the fault of the Texans because they guaranteed wide receiver Jaden Higgins contract guaranteed. That's got to drive Stewart crazy. And so the problem is everybody hates Nick Caserio because now their number 2 picks want their contracts guaranteed, including the Texans' second round pick, offensive tackle Ariante Usery. And how do they justify not giving him his guaranteed when they did it with Higgins? So it's there's going to be a lot of general managers and contract negotiators who are not going to have fun vacations.
John, our long national nightmare is over. Aaron Rodgers signed with the Steelers, goes to camp, saying all the right things, doing all the right things. How do you see this relationship with him and Tomlin working out? Of course, Arthur Smith is there, and Tomlin's like giving Arthur the reign to do whatever he wants. But how do you see this working out long-term between Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin?
Well, I don't think anything's going long-term with Rodgers, but I think this. He's had Arthur Smith's playbook. Like I've heard people say, oh, man, he doesn't know the offense. Why do you think they had the Jets and the Steelers in the first game? Do you think that maybe the NFL called the Steelers and said, we're thinking about doing this. We don't want you on TV with Mason Rudolph. So they wink, yeah, he'll be here. So they put him in that game. I'll guarantee you he has every play in Arthur Smith's playbook on his laptop. He's been studying it. He's smart. He's a veteran. He'll hit the ground running. His issue is not with coaches. His issues are with the guy in the mirror. And I think his second year back from that Achilles injury, because he takes great care of himself, I think they'll win 9 or 10 games in a tough division and probably win a wild card berth.
Wow. John McClain is with us. See, I think it's an interesting thing to look at with him of just what is left in the tank, both mentally and physically, at this point in his career. But you may be right with Mike Tomlin there, because Tomlin can probably control some of the craziness. You may just be onto something, John.
Well, I don't see Tomlin standing in the way of his weekly appearances on Pat McAfee since he gets paid $1 million. I don't think anybody take $1 million away. And every time he does it, he'll stir up controversy because that's just what he does, and he likes the drama. It's pretty obvious Aaron Rodgers likes the drama, even though he claims he doesn't. He had 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The analytics weren't good, but I think he'll be better this season than he was last season. The problem is they got one receiver, and they got a bunch of tight ends. They lost their 1,000-yard rusher. I don't think they're going to be much better than they were. I think they'll be in that 9 or 10 win neighborhood.
John, appreciate it as always. Glad you got to spend some time with Jimmy Johnson. We will talk to you on Wednesday.
Guys, thank you very much as always.
John McClain joining us here on the program. He is presented by Maple Street Biscuit Company, which is where we are today. Wake up to wow. We're going to keep the fun going, talking a lot of football on this Friday as Coach Jeff Fisher of the Nashville Cats in AF1 is going to join us for the entire 10 o'clock hour. We're looking forward to that conversation with him, all coming up next here on the Chasing Big Joe Show, presented by the Omni Nashville Hotel. And Dr. Crane, of course, is back at the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hour number 2, Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Here on this Friday, we are at our great place, Maple Street Biscuit Company, here in, I guess, Berry Hill, Wedgwood, Houston, kind of right there, 8th Avenue. So please come by and say hello. 2407 8th Avenue South here in Nashville. You can get free crispy tots with the purchase of any of their delicious biscuit sandwiches. Big Joe, of course, loves those tots.
I do.
We're here, of course, for the rest of the hour. You can come by. You can register to win Sounds tickets. You can also get tickets to see the Nashville Cats playing in Clarksville tomorrow at F&M Bank Arena. And to talk a little more about that, Coach Jeff Fisher is with us from AF1 and the Nashville Cats. What's up, Coach?
Not much. It's good to be here. I heard about it. I've never been here. I can't wait to have a recommended biscuit.
I just had what was called the Farmer,
Yeah.
and it's a chicken biscuit
Okay.
basically covered in apple butter and has
Oh,
bacon on it, too. It's very good.
Yeah, that sounds real good. How about let's do something different? Let's wrap up John McClain.
Yeah.
That was cool. I got you guys on the way over here, and that voice and what he did, and just all the stories. I just wanted to say a few words about John.
He's
And,
awesome.
I mean, he is. He's the best. I'll never forget. I was in Hawaii coaching the Pro Bowl with the 49ers. We had just lost the second consecutive NFC Championship game to the Cowboys, and at that time you had to go over coach the Pro Bowl, so it's a consolation. I mean, it's good, but not 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And so my future was a little kind of up in the air. Am I going to step into coordinator job with the Niners? And I get this phone call from John McClain, and he says, "You probably should get on an airplane." And so then Floyd called, and then I flew there, and then I took the coordinator job. That's when Buddy had left and gone to Arizona, and that was my first conversation with John, first of thousands, and I'll never forget that conversation. It was great. He really gave me all the background, everything about what was going on in Houston and what had gone down, and and then went in there and met Floyd for the first time and got the coordinator job, and then the rest was history.
And obviously you thought you were just there to be a coordinator.
I was.
Yeah.
I was actually. I mean, growing up as a in Southern California as a Ram fan. I mean, an opportunity to go in there and work with Jack Pardee.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that was really. I mean, it was like a dream come true because just the fan in me and the respect I had for the game, and the Rams. I can still name their roster, but. So it was really cool to be around Jack, and and unfortunately Jack didn't survive the season. They let him go, and then I was named interim. But it was a kind of one. Anytime I hear John McClain's voice, it just brings back great memories.
Were you? I'm sorry. Were you? Because the Niners won the Super Bowl in '94. Where you're like, damn it, because you'd been there in '92.
I went.
You were there in '92 and '93. You'd been there with the Niners, and then '94 they win the whole thing.
Oh yeah, of course they did. And then Mike leaves, Shanahan leaves, and he goes to Denver. See, he'd already been with stint at Oakland, and he leaves and goes to Denver. So he's after that Super Bowl there, '94. He goes to Denver, and we both started. I started in Houston officially '95. I think he started officially in Denver.
Right.
Yeah.
And they win 2 Super Bowls and get it done there.
When did Floyd call you when he was going to make the coaching change first, or did he make the coaching change and then go to you and say, "Hey, you're going to be the interim"?
Well, it's really interesting. They called me into the office and they told me that they were going to make a change and that they wanted me to be the interim. And they kind of laid it all out there for me and what was going to be required and what we were going to do. And initially I turned it down. I just wanted to keep working with the defense, and I felt like the interim title. I mean, history had shown at that time that those guys that finished up the season at interim kind of went off into the interim sunset, kind of thing. You just didn't get it; just never really materialized. And so, I remember, probably going past midnight with Steve Underwood and Floyd, and then we got it worked out. And then, of course, I took over the next day and. oh my gosh, the stuff that happened, between that and we had I opened against in a Monday night game against the Giants there. It was my first game as an interim head coach, and so. We were a run and shoot team. We had we had one tight end on the roster, and he basically was there just to give the defense a look, because most teams have tight ends, and so I moved people around. I changed the offense. I went to I formation, one tight end, just from a 4 wide receiver, run and shoot scheme, and so. And we battled, man. We battled. We had a close game with the Giants, and we had a couple more. And then I had some issues with the player. You name it, it came up. And then the final deal was really fun. Cool story was that we had been a conventional offense for the 3 games that I had been interim, and we're just plugging along. Don't have the people to plug them in and things like that. And I felt like, man, I really need to win this last game. We're playing the Jets. We're playing Pete Carroll. The Jets and Boomer was quarterback, and I went back to the run and shoot and didn't tell anybody. And I started Bucky Richardson.
Yes,
remember Bucky?
Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas A&M, baby. So I started Bucky. We went to run and shoot, and we beat him, and Pete got fired. So
is that when he went to SC?
Yeah. Well, it all worked out good for him. And then he ultimately he paid me back within the coaching circles. He made some recommendations to me that, and everything. And yeah, coach, he had a logjam of coaches on the offensive staff there. I mean, he had. Lane Kiffin and oh man, he had 2 or 3 guys that were in position.
Orgeron was there.
Yeah, Orgeron was there.
And Sarkisian was there.
He's got Sark and Kiffin there, and Pete and Norm Chow is his offensive coordinator, and he's not quite sure what to do. So I had called to ask permission to talk to Norm, and Pete says, "Oh yeah," he goes, "Would you mind waiting until after recruiting's over? And man, I'll give you permission." And he goes, "Oh, by the way," he goes, "Jeff, you and I in our lifetime will never meet a better play caller than Norm Chow." Well, with all due respect to Norm, I love him, and we still stay in touch. The NFL game's a lot different than the college game, and it was hard for him to make that adjustment. But he was just trying to shuffle things around because he had Sark and Kiffin out there on his staff.
Oh, yeah.
And boom. So, yeah. So then our little competition rivalry continued. I don't know what I was against him when I was in St. Louis, but I know we had one conversation was he says, "I've lost 3 straight games to you, and you haven't scored an offensive touchdown." And it was well, you need guys to learn to faking punts is part of my offense now. That's how we do things. But
let me ask you this. Now that we got you here, and it's a question we bring up all the time. Floyd's no longer with us. Bud's no longer with us. The 06 quarterback draft. Cutler, Leinart, Vince Young. Please, for once and all, Coach, finish this off. Who did you want in that 06 draft?
Well, I think it's clear, it's obvious. It was one of those times in history where an owner will get involved for personal reasons and have people talk that got his ear. And Bud basically told Floyd, and then, of course, Floyd shared with me 2 or 3 days before that draft that we were taking Vince. Now
Eli is my guy.
Yes, I had Jay over. Obviously, it's not a very long trip.
Right.
Okay. So we coached Jay in the Senior Bowl. Had Jay in the Senior Bowl. Had plenty of visits. I was all Jay. So I was Cutler, Leinart, Young, and
Floyd was Jay, right?
Floyd was Jay. Yeah. And so, now we've got Norm Chow in here in the fold too. Now one would think that, okay, hey, you want to get Matt, and Matt was great. We just felt like athletically and everything, when you evaluate the entire package, that Jay was our guy. Now, a lot of people were, wait a minute, you're going to go just down the road and draft in the first round a quarterback from Vandy?
Yeah.
And now, and really the tape that you got of Jay was most of the time he was picking himself up off the ground.
Right.
Yeah. He had one receiver. I forget who the receiver was.
Earl Bennett.
Yeah. the bear
That's it.
player.
Yep.
Yeah, and in between the two of them just had this magic, and so I love Jay. So Friday night before the draft, I get a phone call from Mike Shanahan, and Mike says, "Well, word's out, man. We've kind of got a feel for who you're taking." And I said, "Why are you calling me?" He said, "Man, I haven't done any work on Jay, and it looks like Jay may fall and may be there when I pick." And I said, "Well, okay." So we had a really long conversation about Jay, and then Mike ended up pretty much drafting Jay
Right.
unseen. I mean, he knew. I mean, obviously he's seen him and he's done all the, done all the research.
He didn't think he'd be there.
Yeah, he didn't think he'd be there. What kind of kid is he? And and
Yeah.
and all this stuff and the character stuff and everything. And so, yeah, Mike ended up taking
Did
Jay.
you
We took Vince.
or Floyd ever try to talk Bud out of this in the few days before the draft? Like, hey, listen, we really like Jay. I know you like Vince, but here's why we like Jay.
Floyd worked pretty hard on that. Yeah, he did.
I've heard that story.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did. He worked hard on it, and it just didn't work out. And hey, we got a rookie of the year. We got things done the first year, and then things started to slip after that. But who knows what would have happened? And then what happened then is in the relationships that the relationship I had with Mike was cool because we've been together on the 49er staff, and when we were there together in 92, 93. Steve Young's a starter, Joe Montana's a backup. I mean, we had some players, and it was a really good experience for me. And then, I watched Mike with the quarterbacks and things like that. And then when I stepped away here and then ended up taking the Ram job, I reached out to Mike because I'd been out a year and reached out to several other people, and I wanted their opinion on Sam Bradford. And that's primarily the reason. Sam Bradford and Stan Kroenke were the reasons that I took the Ram job. And it's got to have a good owner and a quarterback. That's not a no-brainer. And so I really trusted Mike's opinion on Sam, and it was right. Sam was special. I mean, he was really, really a special player, a special quarterback. You could literally shut your eyes and know when he's throwing the ball. You could hear it go through the air.
I spent, during COVID when we didn't have anything to talk about, there was a week that I got to host with Floyd, and there was nothing going on, nothing to talk about.
Right.
So he just told stories.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And I asked him, I said, do you think if things hadn't gone the way they did with Steve and locking him out and having to do all that stuff, that Vince might have turned out differently? And you want to talk about seeing pain in somebody's face of like, man, because he went through the whole story of talking to Bud and Bud telling him, no, don't get him hurt and all that stuff. And, talking to you about it. Do you feel the same way that if Vince had 1 year with Steve, whether Vince is starting or Steve is starting, or they're just in the same locker room on the same team, they already had the relationship, that maybe things could have gone differently with Vince?
When you talk about they already had the relationship, Vince referred to Steve as Pops.
As Pops, right.
Yeah, and so, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. Had he just had a year, Steve would have showed him how to study, how to prepare, how to communicate.
Because Steve was close to done anyway.
Oh, yeah, but Steve, I mean, trust me, there were numerous times I called Steve and I go, no. Because he started laughing. He goes, "What you got now?" I go, "I need a little help." I said, "Give Vince a call, man. You need to da da da." He goes, "I got it." We had one instance where Vince, for whatever reason, was late for the team plane, the flight to Philly to play the Eagles. And so, we're on the plane, and the plane's going to depart at whatever it is, say 1 p.m. And I always had that. The players will tell you, if it was a 1 o'clock flight, I would say we're leaving when the last guy gets here. And so if the last guy is on the plane, we'll leave early. Or better yet, I'm leaving when we have one more guy that's not on the plane. I'm going to leave somebody. Okay, so don't be that last guy. Okay. So we get a call, and Vince is delayed, and so we waited. We just couldn't wait any longer, and we ended up departing. And he departed as he was pulling into the parking lot of the FBO. And
Oh, well.
so, yeah, it was like, so I got him on the phone and I go, hey, man, things happen. We got to go. They would leave with me behind. If we're slotted, we got to go, whatever. I don't care what happened. I said, I got a flight for you. Just park, go over. They're waiting for you at the gate. You'll probably beat us there. We had a commercial flight for him. And he goes, no, I'm not coming. So I went through that ordeal, you can imagine. And so that's, when I got off the plane, I called Steve and I go, hey, man, you need to.
Was Vince the starter at this point?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so I said to Steve, you need to get him here and if you can. I said, because it's not, I can't get through to him right now. He's just in one of these funks he gets in. So Steve sent his plane, got him in there, got him into Philly, and then he really didn't want it. Vince wasn't crazy about playing the next morning. He was in his locker at Philly with his hoodie on. Norm came in and said, Coach, we got a problem. I go, what? And he goes, it's VY. And he says he's sitting in his locker. Normally he's the life of the party in the locker.
Yeah.
The music's going. He's a great guy, a great team guy, great teammate, Vince was. But in this particular case, because he got left behind, his feelings were hurt and he didn't want to play. So I brought him in the office and had a couple conversations with him. And basically the way it ended was it's kind of that role reversal thing. Hey, dude, sit here. I'll sit there. Okay, you be the head coach and I'll be you. And I'll just pout my ass off, and I'm just going to act. And so when he finally, I told him, get up, go get dressed. Your teammates are counting on you. You need to go out there and win this game.
Wow.
You're playing against Donovan right now, man. And you got some stuff going. We're a pretty good team, He got up and walked out. And I'll never forget. I called him. I go, hey, one more thing. And he looked at me. I go, just so you know, to be clear, there's no Longhorn painted on the tail of the aircraft. You're not at University of Texas. You're in the NFL. Get your ass in there and win this game. So first play, he calls the first play wrong. First offensive play, off the wristband, completely wrong. Mike Roos gets everybody lined up. Then T. Henry goes bang about 25 yards, first down. Second play, Vince calls completely wrong. Travis gets another big gain. I think the third play was also called wrong. He throws a touchdown pass to Aaron Kinney and 3-play drive for a touchdown. And he doesn't want to play. And and we're sitting there waiting to slap hands and do stuff as he's coming off on the boundary, and we're sending the extra point team on. And he runs all the way down the numbers and he goes and he stops on the far 20-yard line, stands there, across his arms, and just stared off into space. And so he was a challenge sometimes when he got to that point. Tremendous talent, but long story of it was I leaned on Steve quite a bit early on in his career to, just to help Vince a little bit.
And y'all won the game 31-13 too.
Pack had a interception or punt return for a touchdown. We had 2-minute drives that I wouldn't even let Vince throw it. I just wanted to hand it off.
Right.
So is this 06?
06.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. I want to come back real quick.
Yep.
There's a time that you got mad at me on live TV.
No way.
We've talked about it a long time ago, but it's a moment. But you apologized profusely after the game. But at halftime, you ripped me up and down. But we'll talk. It's a preseason game. We'll talk about
it. Stay tuned, baby.
I want to know if there's video of this. And we'll get into the Cats as well.
Okay.
Live from Maple Street Biscuit Company, located at 2407 8th Avenue South. Coach Jeff Fisher is with us here on Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Cutler, Leinart, Vince Young. Please, for once and all, Coach, finish this off. Who did you want in that 06 draft?
Well, I think it's so I was Cutler, Leinart, Young.
Chasing Big Joe, 1025 1063 The Game, live at Maple Street Biscuit Company, located at 2407 8th Avenue South in Nashville. And by the way, shout out to the Elite Networking Group. We just met all of them. They meet here at Maple Street every other Friday. If you have a business that you'd like to promote, come on and check them out, 9 to 11 on Fridays, or every other Friday. Our man Les from our sales team is a part of that, and how this all came to be. So we're excited to be here. All right, Joe.
So, yeah, nice little crowd, too. So, Coach, 2008 preseason game playing the Falcons. Mike White had taken over. You told us in the production meeting before the game, which I was always fascinated by, that the Falcons are going to fight. They're going to fight your team in a preseason game. And you've told your team to be ready for this. What happens? Michael Griffin gets kicked out on the second play. There's like 19 personal foul penalties because Mike White wanted to establish an attitude his first year with the Falcons. You come over at halftime, and I said, "Whoo, Coach, what a first half, huh?" And you're like, "You think so?" And just you took all of your anger, because that's the maddest I've ever seen you. And I covered you a long time, and you took it all out on me, right? And I just stood there. It was we were live on the NFL Network. It was everywhere, and I'm like, "Oh man!" And you were so mad at Mike White that I really think you would have kicked his ass at halftime had you had the opportunity, because they were trying to fight you. That's what they did. After the game, you came up and you're like, "Hey," you made it a point to come immediately after the game and said, "Y'all won the game, by the way." Came up and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that." You were very, very polite, but your passion for those probably 90 seconds, man, that was something else.
So I appreciate you bringing it up. I remember there was some carryover with the Falcons, but that you saying this is 06, right?
08 preseason.
08 preseason.
Yes,
Okay, so we're kind of in a transition from every locker room is different, and you had some good ones, you had some challenging ones. I never had a bad locker room, but at that time we had some guys that will push the limit a little bit, and what I was trying to, my focus in the preseason and training camp was to get them to understand how important it is to be able to walk away, to be able to not get caught up in those things after the whistle. And because those things are the things that hurt you during the season. And so it's a learning process. And I remember back then I was really caught up in that. And I wanted to teach these guys the understanding. I'll never forget watching games. One game in particular, Kyle Vanden Bosch, we would reward him for walking away. Okay? And so on tape. And so he got pushed and whatever. And he kind of went, he just stuck his hand up and put his finger in the air on the coach's all 11. And then 2 or 3 series later, he's got his hand up again. He's holding up 2 fingers and he's walking away. So the whatever I was doing was working. We're not getting penalties and personal fouls in the games, and that was a point of emphasis. And going into that game, and it wasn't going very well at that point.
Well, you had told us that you're going to tell the team that they're going to provoke you in every way possible,
right,
to fight all that. Off of that, I want to get the question about Albert Haynesworth. The raw talent, you drafted him in 2002, and I remember the rumor was that Phil Fulmer told you, whether it's accurate or not, you draft Albert, you better draft his mom as well, because he's just so young and raw and all that. How good could he have been? I mean, you saw him every day for 6 seasons.
He was a dominating. He was the dominating defensive tackle, in my opinion, in the league. He was really, really special. He had a great career. I've crossed paths with him recently, and he's doing great. Lost all.
He looks good.
He just has got it together, and it's a good story. He's a great story. He could have been. I thought when he went to Washington, Mike called me, and this is Shanahan, and Mike's there with Daniel Snyder, and Mike signed him and brought him into Washington. But I kind of explained to Mike that you're going to have to treat him a little differently under the same set of rules that you have established for your team, because he requires that, because he'll do some things. Sometimes he won't think about things. Here's a great example. You do not, one thing you don't do in the NFL circles and world or whatever is leave the team hotel after curfew. You don't do that. That is a no-no. Phone rings at midnight and I get a call and Albert has left. Albert has left the hotel after curfew. So when I get over to the stadium in the morning, noon kickoff, I'm there about 8:30. I tell the equipment guys to clean out Albert's locker. I went empty. He's not playing. So I haven't seen Albert. I haven't talked to him since he left the hotel after curfew, and boom. And so he comes rolling in, and he is freaking hot, mad at me because his locker's empty. And I go, dude, you left the hotel after curfew. And he goes, yeah, I did. I hate those beds. I can't even fit in the beds and da-da-da-da. And I went home. I go, really? You went home? He goes, yeah, I went home. I said, all right, get Steph on the phone. Now the air got really freaking thick in my little office over there at the stadium. And I said it was the old phone. It was put it on speaker and boom, 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 dial it, and phone rings and Steph goes, hello, and he goes, hey Steph, it's Al. I'm here with Coach. He goes, hi Jeff, how you doing? I go, I'm doing good, Steph. So I got a question for you. And she goes, yeah, what's up? I said, where did Albert sleep last night? Now, my stomach was in my throat because this could have created some problems, right? It's 4 hours before. She goes, Coach, he slept here next to me. He hates those beds, man. I go, okay, Steph, we'll see you after the game. Take care. Get over here in time. Albert's going to play really good today. Da-da-da. Hung up, and I looked at him, and I just started ripping into his ass. Why don't you just tell me that you're going to go home? I'd have let you go home.
Yeah.
But just don't leave, because he created that.
Sure.
Now, had he not gone home, who knows what would have happened. Right. I may not have survived it in my office, but that was that's how you had to handle him. And at that point, but I mean, big heart, everything. I mean, unfortunately, in the heat of the battle, he lost his composure against the Cowboys, and he had the issue with his center, and had some other issues, but it was a dominating player, absolutely dominating player.
I know a different era, different players, but Jeffrey Simmons with the Titans now is an immense talent. Big guy. He's actually lost some weight, kind of gotten leaner. How, if you were coaching him, how would you handle him? Because I feel like he's a good player, no off-field issues. He's been, mature when he got into the NFL. I think he might have been a little more mature than Albert when he got into the NFL. But I also feel like there are times he'll get in his own way with media and social media and, how people perceive him when really he just needs to focus on football.
Yeah.
How would you handle something like that?
I would say this. I've met him several times. I have a great deal of respect for him. The only problem that in my mind he has is he hates losing.
Yeah.
He does not like to lose. He's playing football to win a championship. He's old school. He wants to win badly, and he's just frustrated and doesn't know how to channel sometimes the frustration, and I think sometimes he's misunderstood. But if you want to build a team on defense around somebody, that would be in my mind. Now, I've only met him a couple of times, and I'm kind of basing this based on what other people say, but that's the kind of guy you want to build your defense around. And I totally understand the frustration. It is not easy when you got guys on your roster that you draft, that you've done all character background checks and everything else. And I guarantee you, whoever their scout that was that scouted him initially came out and said, this dude wants to win.
Brian's trying to build a new culture over there. And I know OTAs are optional. The guys can work out on their own or whatever. Where I had an issue was you have a guy that's supposed to be a leader, supposed to be one of the top guys on your team. You're trying to, integrate the young guys and build this culture, and he's not there. And he says, it was a personal decision I made not to be there. coaches knew, everybody knew, but he wasn't there, and he was really one of the only guys there. That's kind of an issue I have. Is I feel like you got to lead by example. He was there for mini camps, all that stuff, but those workouts, the team bonding part, is important in my mind.
Yeah, it is really important, but I mean, I'll just remind myself and you guys, we don't have all the information. We don't
True.
know really what went down, what led to it, and there's a backstory that we'll probably never hear. But basically, as a coach, you'd like to have everybody there, at least have them there. And if he doesn't want to participate, because of potential injury or whatever it is,
Sure.
Or if there's a conflict. I mean, sometimes guys, brothers get married, and they're, you and I we would all go to our brother's wedding versus a OTA.
Sure.
So I mean, you don't know. Sometimes there are things that come up, and it's all about being able to communicate your way through it. Sounds like there's a communication issue there.
Right?
Potentially. Something like
Yeah.
that. Real quick, there's somebody that wants to say hello to you. Let's go to Chris on a car phone who is standing by. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing? I want to ask Coach Fisher just a couple of questions. That's it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in the Super Bowl, did you ever after the Super Bowl, did you get a chance to yell at Les Steckel and say that Chris Sanders was open in the back of the end zone?
Is this Chris that walks on his toes?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Coach?
I'm really good, Chris. Man, I can't hug you through the phone, man. Sorry. What was your question?
It was.
Were you open? You said
I was open on the last
trust
play
me,
of the
he'll tell
game.
you.
I was waving my hand. I said, Jeff, hey, I'm over here.
Eddie was open too on the swing.
No.
Picked Eddie up. No, it was kind of we were locked in for some reason.
We
Kevin
did.
had
I
to
was
deal
just
with Steve, but
Yeah.
when I say this, I wonder what would have happened. Did he push that route just another yard and a half
I
up
know.
the field, and then Mike
It was
Six
360
would have
sliver.
turned, and then
Absolutely.
he would have come underneath him and
Yeah.
might have walked in. Yeah, but anyway,
Yeah,
that
hey.
happens. What you? Huh?
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to see you tomorrow
Good.
because I'll be at the game. But
Okay, come
I
on
want to
up.
ask you a little bit
Yeah.
of football. What's that?
Yeah, come on up. It'll be fun. We got a fun one going on tomorrow afternoon. Appreciate everything you've been doing for us and your support.
Oh, man, I love it, man. I love working with you.
Broadcasts here and there. So, yeah.
And I'm going to ask
Good.
you one question. I'm going to get off here. In 1994 or 1995, you drafted Steve McNair, and Steve McNair became one of the best quarterbacks in this franchise. I mean, you have a great relationship with him. You guys talked. You guys cried together. Behind the scenes, what made this guy different? What made this guy tick? And also, do you see any characteristics in the same in Cam Ward?
Great question. I haven't really done a lot on Cam. Saw a little bit. Cam's going to be just fine. I hope they take the time, whether it's a week to get him ready or 5 or 6 weeks or a season. But guys are different when they come in now. They're some are more ready to play than others. Some can assimilate. I think the biggest thing for Cam, the only benefit of the NIL stuff is from a quarterback standpoint, is that he's got to go in and play under 3 different systems and move around, and got a lot of people, a lot of different opinions evaluating them. Steve was the great part about Steve was Steve had, people didn't realize this, but Steve, the offense that he had played in the year before was largely a West Coast offense. I mean, it was
true.
It was so there was some familiarity there, but I wanted to make sure that he had a chance to be successful when he went on the field. And
That's awesome.
Too much information way too early on can be a problem. I remember, you would probably remember this, when we had the game canceled there, and then we came back and played that last preseason game. We were playing none other than Buddy Ryan in the Arizona Cardinals, and Buddy really didn't care. He had just left there, and Buddy had everybody on the line of scrimmage blitzing, and Steve turned the ball over 3 times in 2 plays because of what was going on. And I was like, Buddy, what are you doing to my quarterback? And so But that's where, Steve, the
Yeah.
great part about Steve was anytime anybody asked him, well, when are you going to
Yeah.
play? And his response was, over and over and over, was when the coaches say I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's now he felt like he was ready when he was asked the
Yeah.
question the first time. But I
Absolutely.
wanted to make sure that I wanted to bring him along and get as much experience as we could. He came in after because we had a lead. He came in after
Yeah.
when
Yeah, I
in a
remember
game
that.
when we were trailing. He came in
Mhm.
because Chris was hurt, or he got
Yeah.
all kinds of experience that first year, which really set him up in year two. So. You gotta. Every quarterback's different, as you know. You played for some really good ones,
7.
and they think differently. They process differently, but I know this. People ask me the first 2 or 3 years that Steve was under center, and they say, "Is he one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league?" I said, I don't know if I can answer that, but I definitely can say that he's one of the
Wow.
top 3 football players
Yeah.
Wow.
in the
Come
league.
on, man.
And then finally we got to 2002 when he won the co-MVP
Yep.
with Peyton, and that's when it was official. Yeah, he was one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league.
100%. Chris, we will see you tomorrow in
Yes,
Clarksville.
sir.
Really looking forward to it.
Hey, man, I appreciate you so much. Love you, Coach Fisher. Love you guys, man.
You too, buddy. Talk soon.
Okay,
See you
bye-bye.
tomorrow.
See you, Chris. Chris Sanders, of course, will be a part of the television broadcast. We'll talk some Cats with Coach Fisher coming up next as they take on Corpus Christi in Clarksville tomorrow at F&M Bank Arena. If you're out and about, want to swing by Maple Street Biscuit Company, I have some tickets I can put in your hand that can put you in Clarksville tomorrow. Just swing by Maple Street Biscuit Company, located at 2407 8th Avenue South here in Nashville. Chasing Big Joe, 1025, 1063 The Game. Big Joe, 1025, 1063 the game here on this Friday at Maple Street Biscuit Company. Wake up to wow. Have had a lot of fun here today. Keep this in mind. You get free crispy tots with the purchase of any of their delicious biscuit sandwiches located at 2407 8th Avenue South in Nashville. The Cats in action tomorrow in Clarksville. Before we get to that, Joe, you wanted to ask.
Yes.
Apparently, I brought this up and don't remember it.
So, Coach, we're doing a countdown to the start of college football season. 71 days from the day the college football season starts. With that, we're asking your favorite number of 71. Yesterday was 72, and we brought up guys who wore 72. We brought up the Refrigerator Perry. You saw him in Chicago. Organically, the genesis of him coming in there and everything that carried on. What made Refrigerator Perry become a national phenomenon?
Well, a year or so before he was drafted, Bill Walsh put Guy McIntyre at fullback and maybe even at tailback in 1984, and kept the ball away from Mike Ditka's offense and the Chicago Bears, and just humiliated them at Candlestick. Mike never forgot that. He wanted to go out and get the biggest guy he possibly could, most athletic guy, and he wanted to bring him in, and ultimately there was going to be a little bit of payback. So they drafted William. Now, William was very, very explosive. He was strong. I mean, he's a good player instinctively. I mean, he was like six. He was a shorter guy. So leverage, he was always winning. And then the powerful player walked in the door. That was a unique group. They very quickly nicknamed him Mudslide, because that's what he looked like with his shirt off. Now, that was Hampton, and God rest Steve McMichael's soul right now. But those guys took him under their wing, and he was everything. He was really a great teammate, funny guy, happy guy. Mike in the Super Bowl, 85 Super Bowl, went over New England. If Mike were to have one thing to do over again, have one thing back from based on that Super Bowl, he probably would rather have handed the ball to Walter to get Walter a touchdown in the Super Bowl rather than give it to Fridge. But Fridge was a great teammate, really funny guy, just really, really great guy to be around.
Those of us that know you know how important it is to honor the men and women of the military. The salute to service game tomorrow in Clarksville, just steps away from Fort Campbell. Beautiful arena in F&M Bank Arena. I'm really excited. Joe and I are going to be there calling the action. It's a really cool place. I know that you're excited to put an emphasis on the military.
Yeah, we had a training camp up there, Campbell, and gosh, we had them come in and wake the players up.
Did you jump out of a helicopter or a plane or something?
Yeah, I did. I did with 101st. Yeah, it landed on over at Metro Center on the practice field. Yeah, I did. I climbed Kilimanjaro with the Wounded Warrior Project and did a lot of stuff with them. So anytime you get a chance, any chance whatsoever to get back and include them, we will. We did that last year. We had one game up there. We nearly sold it out and involved everybody on the base. and think we're going to do the same thing. So this is kind of one we circled, one that we're looking forward to. Season tickets. Ticket sales are going great. We're going to have a great crowd, and this game's meaningful. I mean, the Cats need this one. The Cats can get this one, then they'll be in. It's just a matter of whether they're a 2 seed or a 3 seed. So a lot of things happening. So in Arena Football 1 in the league, we're in our final weekend of the regular season. Playoffs will start next week. 4 teams are going. Expect the Cats to be in, and there is a chance that there's going to be a home game. It all depends on how things unfold. And so this is a must-needed win for them, and we're really looking forward to it. So kickoff tomorrow, 5 p.m., F&M Bank Arena. Come on up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can buy tickets at the gate, right?
You can buy tickets at the gate, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was fun. The last home game was fun. It was exciting. Great crowd. I was telling Chase, we know it's not the Super Bowl, but it's damn fun.
It is fun. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, I probably said this many times, but been going around. I've been to Salina, I've been to Dodge City, kind of going to all the cities. We were in Billings last weekend. A bunch of my fishing buddies came in, friends came in, some for the first time. could not believe how much fun it was.
Yeah.
Sat down on the boards. Guys that came up last year came back. If you go once, you're going to go again. You're going to come back and see it. Bring the kids. It's a family event, and there's just exciting. 65-63 was one of the final scores last weekend. I mean, that's a lot of points and a lot of excitement. And we had weekend before last, we have, instead of the 2-minute warning that everybody else has, the 11-on-11 stuff, there's a 1-minute break. And inside of a minute 2 weeks ago, before half, there were 23 points scored.
It's amazing. It's
Keep
so
track
that's
of
what
that.
makes it so much fun.
Yeah, it is. It's just you blink and what happened there? You kicked it to the uprights. Really? It's like, whoa. So, yeah, I'm still learning the rules.
Yeah. Well, and you have kickers that can just bomb it through and get the deuce or play, bounce it off the net or whatever.
Yeah, it's really fun. Players are great. They just love it. We got some issues. I got involved in some sportsmanship. We had some stuff go on between bitter rivalries between Salina, Kansas, and Southwest Kansas at Dodge City. These are two teams vying for a playoff spot, and they got a little push and shove stuff going on after the game, and so we got that cleaned up. But I mean, it's playoff time. That's what it is. Anytime it's playoff time, things become more important, and they are. So big weekend for the Cats. We're looking forward to have them having success against Corpus. Corpus, they went down there a couple weeks ago and played them, and they're a team that's been revitalized and under new ownership. And so Cats can get this one. Stay tuned. We'll let everybody know whether we got a home game or whether we're going on the road next week.
Look, we have all the respect in the world for Roger Goodell, but you are by far our favorite football commissioner. So
yes,
I'm just trying to get out there. He only gets to hug people at draft time. I get to hug him every weekend.
I love it. Jeff Fisher has been with us this entire hour. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Been a lot of fun telling stories. Again, the Nashville Cats in action. You can hear it on Totally Hits 93.3 pregame at 4:30, the kickoff at 5. But come out to Clarksville, F&M Bank Arena. Kickoff at 5 o'clock, as I mentioned. You can buy tickets there. You can go to NashvilleCats.com. You can come by here if you're around in the next few minutes. We got some we can give you as Nashville takes on Corpus Christi. It's been a fun week. That is going to do it for us, Joe.
Yes, as we always leave our show with our message to the guys out there. If you are struggling and going through some things, please, on your cell phone, you can call or text 988. Please, whatever you go through, talk to somebody. We are so grateful to the men who've reached out to us the last year and a half and report that you guys are doing well because you trusted us and reached out to us. Know that your journey is sometimes a rough journey, but it's your journey. It's going to be a beautiful journey at the end. And know that we love you, more importantly, more than anything else in this world. God loves you.
Amen to that. Peace, love, rock and roll. DVD coming up next here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.